Today's guest is Erika Flora. She's the CEO of Beyond20, a woman-owned IT consulting and training company on a mission to change work life. Erika is lead editor and co-author of the ITIL 4 book, Digital and IT Strategy, and a long-time executive and coach. She's also a fierce advocate for opening doors to women and minorities in STEM, which I applaud. So among other things, Erika has been named one of the Hispanic IT Executive Council's 100 most influential technologists and was a Smart CEO finalist. She serves on the board of the Latino Economic Development Center and has been a featured guest and subject matter expert on Cheddar TV and Great Day Washington. So I am joyful to get to meet you, Erika, and have an opportunity to talk to you. So thanks for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So for those who haven't met you, had a chance to have a conversation with you, talk about you, talk about your background, where you're from and who you are.
Yeah, so I grew up in Florida, and growing up, I wanted to be three things. I wanted to be a doctor, I wanted to be an artist, and president of the United States. And one day I had a babysitter ask me when I was 5 what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I just blurted out I wanted to be a doctor. And she said, well, you can't be a doctor because you're a girl.
Oh.
And 5-year-old me got really mad. And it set me on a path to prove her and to prove everyone wrong. I went to college, studied microbiology, actually got my master's in microbiology. And through that journey, changed from wanting to be a doctor to wanting to be a scientist. And I worked as a scientist for about 2 years. And about 2 minutes into the job, I was like, wow, I hate this.
Oh, no.
And I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And through some happy accidents, I became a recruiter for a few years, then landed a job as a project manager and got the opportunity as I was working as a project manager, my first time in the role, to get to be involved in a transformation effort. And now there's words like digital transformation and organizational change and agile and all this kind of stuff. But back then we were just like, let's fix what's wrong in our organization and bring everyone along for the ride. And so at the end of the 3 years, the company that I worked for had top to bottom transformed. It was awesome. And I was like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. And so I got the chance to do that several more times and then went off on my own. And 16 years ago, my husband and I co-founded Beyond20. And yeah, I serve as the CEO and helping that company, helping our company build and grow. I'm like helping
that company. Yeah. So interesting. So the science thing turned out it wasn't for you. Was it the work environment? Was just the scale or the thing that you had to focus on?
I think what it was is I found it really interesting when I was in college. I really, I grew up kind of a weird kid that loved science and kind of a weird, shy kid and just found it to be really fascinating. I loved studying bacteria. And then when I did it for a job, it was a lot of the same things over and over again. And I didn't get a chance to explore. I didn't get a chance to really talk with people the way I had hoped. And yeah, I found that I wasn't continuing to learn. And for me, that's what excites me, is to get a chance to learn and to share that learning with other people. So
you didn't want to use that little whatever you're probably know
pipette. Yeah,
fill the test tube constantly.
Yep.
Wow. So then project management, how did you, so when you fell into the project management role or took on the project management role, was it what you expected it to be?
So I didn't know what it was. So basically, let me back up a little bit. So I worked as a microbiologist. It was the strangest thing. I kind of fell into what I did. So grew up in Florida, like I said before, and wanted to go find a job. I specialized in food microbiology, and I got a job in middle of nowhere, Arkansas, and worked there for 2 years. And I was like, I was a girl that grew up in a big city, and I went to this tiny town of like 10,000 people, and I felt like a fish out of water, and realized I needed to move after doing the job for a couple of years, and ended up following some friends to Phoenix, Arizona, and my roommate at the time had become a recruiter, and she's like, you should look at recruiting. And I was like, okay, I have no idea what that is, but I'll try it. And did that for about 2 years, realized that wasn't for me. But what I did learn, I got this really good skill of being able to pitch companies on candidates. And I was like, hey, I'm a candidate now. I should call companies. And that's what I did. I just called pharmaceutical companies. That was the industry that I worked in as a recruiter. And I said, hey, I know this lady. She's got a background in science. She's got some business chops. And what do you think? And I had called that day, I'd called the vice president of research and development for a pharmaceutical company. And he, to my surprise, said, hey, we're thinking of hiring a project manager. And I had never heard those words before. And I was like, okay, well, I assume I'm going to manage a project. Sure. Yeah, I can do it. And so I went and I interviewed with him, and they created a position for me. I was their first project manager. I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. And so I went into work and just learned as much as I could. I was a sponge on just understanding how the business worked. And then at night, I'd take classes on project management. And then the next day, I'd be like, hey, I learned something. I want to try to implement it. And so that's what I did. I just learned and implemented and kind of flew by the seat of my pants. Um, and lucky for me, they didn't know what I was supposed to be doing either. So we all just kind of went on the journey together, and it was fantastic. And so they basically just gave me the one direction. They said, see if there's stuff that we need to fix in terms of how we run projects. And that's what I did. I just like went and talked to everybody and said, okay, what projects are you working on? They're like, I don't know. And I was like, okay, well, let's write it down on a piece of paper. What are you doing?
Wow.
How long do you think this is going to take? And tell me like the basics of that project. And then we started to change the way that we worked and change processes and did training for folks, trained myself. And then about maybe a year into the job, we were emailing project schedules back and forth between different locations. And I was like, this is not going to work for us. And so I went into the C-suite, and not knowing any better, I just pitched them on, hey, we need to buy an enterprise platform, and here's how much it's going to cost. And it was the most money they had ever spent on on anything like that. And they're like, yeah, go do it. And I'm like, oh crap. Okay, well, I have to go lead it. So I just started the whole process over again. At night, I would read books on how to implement software. And then during the day, I'd be like, hey guys, this is what we're doing. And it was wildly successful. And I think one of the reasons it was so successful is because I didn't know that we couldn't be successful. Just I focused on going and fixing stuff for the organization, and it became this really big and cool thing. So
Wow.
that's a very long answer to your
Yeah,
question.
no, that's really awesome though. Did you learn ITIL at that job, or was it a different job?
It was a different job. I had in that, well, kind of. So when I was in that job, I also just wanted to learn from other project managers. So I got involved in the Management Institute and just kind of hung around other people that were doing the same thing and learning from them. And I remember a couple of my colleagues had mentioned, or a couple of the folks in PMI had mentioned, oh yeah, ITIL is something that they do a lot in IT. And at the time I wasn't really in IT, I was more on the business side. And I just kind of like squirreled that away. And then kind of over time in the jobs that I had, I started working more and more in IT, and then eventually was in IT, and just started learning that, because what I found was ITIL and IT service management is very similar to project management in the way that it's a lot of ways of working, and ways of working a little bit more smartly, intelligently, so you don't create the same issues.
Yeah.
And you use best practice to, or at least use that as a starting point to help you work better within an organization, whether it be operations or whether it be projects. It's all serving the same goal to help organizations be more effective than they are today. And so, yeah, it was just kind of a different flavor of what I had learned when I was a project manager. And so I grabbed onto that and started learning all I could. Same thing, started taking all the classes. It's just kind of what do you call it? Like a habit that I've developed over time. Just, I don't know something, great. Well, let's go learn it and then let's go do it. And let's go
Mhm.
learn some more and let's go do it. I call it being a generous sponge. Especially in my 20s when I didn't know anything at all. I would just find everything that I could and ask people lots of questions and learn a topic that way. And then once I had my feet under me, then sharing that knowledge with other folks. I think that's a good way to be in life, is to learn and then share your learning with others.
Yeah, I've met a lot of successful people that was their philosophy, right? Learn it as I go, learn it quickly, stay ahead of whoever I'm working with, and use it. And and using it really embeds in your head, oh, that's not just words on the paper. That actually meant something, and it works, and it's amazing. And cheers to yourself every night because you succeeded with what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so interesting. I'm in IT, so I've known ITIL for quite some time. But it's interesting whenever you talk to a business person and you have to explain, because they don't think about ITIL. It's not expressed to them very often. But I love ITIL at the very, very center core when explaining it to a business person. And I just say, look, it's all about quick resolution, long-term problem solving. Right? I want you to function, and then I want to figure out how to fix it when we're not on the clock.
I love that. Yeah, the way that I've described it over the years to folks, because we do a lot of training for customers, is it's having the mindset of running IT like a business within a business. And once you tell business folks outside of IT that, they're like, oh, okay, I get it. I would like IT to run like a business. I come to them and, like you said, things get resolved quickly. I get my answers quickly. It's frictionless and seamless, and they help push the larger organization to be better.
Yeah. So you wrote a book. How did that come about?
That is a great question. So Axelos, the inventors of I don't know that you could call them inventors, the curators of ITIL and best practice, approached me after I spoke at a conference and said, hey, we've got this book that we're trying to write for ITIL 4, and would you want to be involved in it? And so, yeah, I applied and was selected as the lead editor. And also, as lead editor, you also get the opportunity to help write. So there were about 10 of us all over the world that help write different different chapters within the book. My contribution was the chapter on Agile. Hopefully I did it. I did a service to the Agile community. But I felt like if you're really trying to succeed in not only having a solid IT strategy, but a digital strategy, the organization has to be Agile. And that was something that wasn't in the ITIL framework in prior versions. So I felt like it needed to be there, and yeah, just help the group put together a good story.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. Like I said, I'm in IT, so I've probably read your book now that I think about it. I've read so much on ITIL. I'll have to go look at my bookshelf and see if it's hidden in there someplace. Because it's such a when I learned ITIL like you, I was like, wait a second, this is like the answer to everything on how I do service and how do I respond to my customers. I was doing it from a software application perspective, right? Building applications and delivering applications, but you had to support those applications and you need to be responsive. And so it's such a critical thing.
Yeah.
So started your own company. How did that come about?
Oh man, I think we were just smart enough and just naive enough to be like, let's do it. Oh, what could go wrong? And we learned a really valuable lesson at the beginning of the company that has formed a bit of the DNA of who we are. We thought, well, we'll just build a website and tell everybody about our services and the classes we teach, and then, build it, they will come. And so we built this website, and we're like, nobody's coming. What's up with that? And I went and did the same thing again. I was like, okay, well, we got to solve this problem. So I read a book called How to Become the Obvious Expert, and building a consulting practice. And it said, your customers will come to you because you share your knowledge with them. And so it said, you just got to share it all, share it for free, speak as much as you can, write as much as you can. And so that's, yeah, exactly what we did. We started writing blog articles around like, hey, here are the problems that I see within the industry. Here's how I would solve them. Here's how we would solve them. We'd speak on all sorts of different topics for different professional organizations. And when you know it, started doing that, and customers started calling us and saying, hey, I saw you speak, or I read this article, and yeah, that's exactly the problem that we're having. Can you help us with it? And so we were doing inbound marketing before inbound was cool, before that was a thing. We just did it to survive. We're like, we need customers, so let's figure out what we need to do to go get them. And you know, just by sharing that knowledge. And so a good portion of our company has goals now around creating content that helps our customers solve problems. So we have a really active YouTube channel. I think we have 1,000 videos on our YouTube channel that we've uploaded to YouTube over the years. We've got a really active blog with new articles coming every week. Yeah, so that's kind of how we built the company over time.
I love that. I love that because, I mean, in other IT communities that I participate in, like the Microsoft community, that's a huge part of what Microsoft does, right? They have tons of people who speak about their products for free a lot of times at user groups and at their own conferences. And that groundswell marketing is such a powerful tool for businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's one of the things too, I think companies are afraid to do sometimes, because you're like, well, if I just tell people how to do it, then they're going to go do it. And what they don't realize is nobody's got a bunch of time on their hands and wants to do it themselves. They read how to do it and they're like, okay, cool. I don't want to do it. I want to hire you to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who are in the consulting business here in the DC area, and that's exactly it, right? They go and speak on it, and you just are surprised that next thing you know, somebody wants your company to come in and do this initiative. It works a little different in government. How I noticed when I was looking at your website that you're on the GSA schedule, you do government work. How did that come about?
So when we first started the company 16 years ago now, maybe 17, for the first several years, all of our customers were in the private sector. And then we started going, you know what? I think government actually buys what we sell and has a need for what we do. And so we actually worked with the Small Business Development Center, and they helped us respond to an RFP that we saw come out. And when you know it, the first one we responded to, we won with the
Wow,
State
that's
Department.
awesome.
And we were like, well, I guess we're doing federal work now. And so it was this steep, and still continues to be a steep learning curve, but we've just thrown ourselves into it. And I mean, the same is true. It doesn't matter if you're public sector or private sector. We all struggle with very similar problems. And so, yeah, that has become about 50% of our business is federal work, and then 50% private sector. And it's been a fun and continues to be a really fun journey.
Well, it's really great that your company does both. There are a lot of consulting firms in the DC area that only focus on government work. Very few that do both commercial and government work. And I've worked in the private sector, I've worked in the government, I've worked in the non-government space, and I see so much, government's slow. The security, the compliance, the requirements we have requires technology to take a while before it gets to the point where we will trust it and introduce it into our environments. It's getting faster and faster. They're working out ways to make that faster, but it can take 6 months to a year before a given technology has been certified for government use. By doing work in commercial, you get a leg up, right? You're doing that already for clients, and now you just leverage that experience for government. I think that's extremely smart. I envy you. That's great. It's a great position to be in.
Yeah, it's been an interesting adjustment, but I also think going from private sector customers, you learn to be very, very fast. So that has served us well. And I think government has also helped us be patient, be more patient. But we bring interesting ideas across both sides. So that has been really kind of cool.
Wow. So as you've kind of gone through this interesting career, journey that brought you to starting your own company, what's something that you've seen that if we came to you uh, and said, "Hey, Erica, we want to change something. What do you see? What is on the landscape that you think we should consider changing?"
So I think what a lot of organizations, it doesn't matter if you're private sector or public sector, a lot of organizations get wrong is they rush to the technology first.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's the fun part, you get to watch a demo and you're like, oh, cool. Yeah, we can do all this stuff. And what they don't like to do is focus on the people and the process stuff first. And
Mm-hmm.
I think with any transformation, there are those three components. There's people, process, and technology, but you have to tackle them in that order. You have to tackle the people stuff, then the process stuff, then the technology stuff. And so it's kind of like, oh yeah, we all want to be fit, but we don't want to go and actually like do what it takes to like
Right.
be more fit than we are. Oh, I have to eat better and work out. Oh, shoot. Okay, well, that's not fun. I want to eat cookies all day. That's a weird analogy, but yeah, I think it's the same thing is you have to really think about these two pieces and incorporate that into the change. And in
Mm.
fact, that's where the name Beyond20, our company, comes from. Is it Gartner Research did a study where they looked at when mission critical systems and organizations fail, what that root cause was. And they found that actually only 20% of the time it's due to failure in hardware and software, and natural disasters, that actually 80% of the time, I see you nod in your head, 80% of the time they were able to trace it back to failure on the people side and the process side. And so that's what we're really passionate about doing, is helping customers address those two pieces so that the technology does what they want it to do. So
Oh,
yeah, we'll get to the whiz bang later, but you've got to do the hard work first.
oh, and it's so hard to convince people to invest in that sometimes.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of, before you go build the big system, let's do a business process reengineering exercise and see where new efficiencies can be gained, and consider processes or people that you have in place that aren't really fitting in quite right, and or they're doing something in a way that could be done differently. And I absolutely agree with you. Now I'm going to become a big fan. Next time somebody says we're looking for somebody who does what you do, I have to mention your company now,
Yay.
because it's such an important part. And in government, it's so hard to get government agencies to consider that. In my experience,
Yeah,
it is very easy to buy technology.
for sure. For sure. But the I think the advantage that I have is that I stumbled into a successful transformation the first time. And like I said before, we didn't even talk about technology until about a year in, and used the tools that we had, and then realized, okay, no, that piece of it needs to change. But we handled the people in the process first, and it was so successful. And I've seen really bad transformation. I've seen good, bad, ugly, everything in between. And that's the magic piece, is making sure that you consider those other two things.
Wow. So what's coming up for you or Beyond20? What's coming up in the near future?
Oh man. So yeah, we're just continuing to, you had mentioned this in my introduction. Our mission legitimately is to change work life. Um, in fact, our leadership team a few years ago, we sat down and talked about what gets us up in the morning every day, and it's to help organizations be better than they were, even the day before. And so for us, it's continuing to do that. Public sector, private sector. About maybe 3-4 years ago, we became an 8A woman-owned, minority-owned certified firm, and so that we're seeing a lot of growth in our company on the federal side. So that's a big piece of our strategy and growth. And also, we are the only ServiceNow elite partner that is also woman-owned, minority-owned.
Ah,
So yeah, that's we were very excited about that. It was a long time coming, and a lot of work and effort that's gone into that. And so for us, yeah, that platform, um, we see a lot of growth potential there. And yeah, we're excited about the future. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Erika, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing about your journey and your passion. And so I really look forward to seeing what comes next for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.